have gone back to it, and it's so interesting.
Right.
What are
okay. So we are live right now. Hi everyone, today's Friday, and I was supposed to go live on Wednesday, but as I promised, there was a lot of stuff going on since last week. So I thought I would rather wait and breathe in and out and find some interesting experts and doers in this area, since Black Lives Matter, since the tragic death of Breonna Taylor, we have George Floyd, and all these protests that went across the world. So I have we're going to be four today. Now we have Malin Gustavsson from Finland. Hi, Malin.
Hello.
And Malin, you and I work together on promoting diversity inclusion in Finnish companies, organizations, nonprofits. And I want to hear your take on what's going on and how this could affect Finnish society, because this is not a specific topic or a webcast. It's not about what's going on in America, but of course, this whole spillover effect and how can we mobilize as our communities in our own places. Also in Uzbekistan, my native place, like how can we look ourselves in the mirror, right? And later we will have beautiful, fantastic also role models and doers. One is Sir Simon Woolley from London. He is at the moment giving an interview to BBC. And then I have an political activist and a Helsinki city councillor, Sultan Said Ahmed. He's also hopefully joining us shortly. But my name is Kamila Sultanova. I work as an entrepreneur, as a public speaker, a cultural architect. So I've been living in Finland for 6 years, spent 12 years in Denmark, where today we celebrate Constitution Day. So Daily Grundlovsdag ele som lura. And yes, and I'm originally from Uzbekistan. I speak Russian as my mother tongue, so I know what is this singling out is. I know what exclusion feels like, where even people who speak Russian tell me that how come you speak fluent Russian? This is our Soviet past. And so you don't have to be Black to feel what discrimination feels like. And at this moment, like last 2 weeks, 2 months, I embarked myself on this webcast, community resilience, because that's really how I build myself up as an immigrant in 2 countries. And social capital is my tool, which is the key of really feeling yourself as part of any community. And today, Malin, you don't know this, there was an article on Finnish Yle newspaper with me in Russian, where I gave an interview on how you can find yourself and how Finnish companies and society can really benefit from social capital exchange like Talkot. Like really focusing on what Finnishness is in terms of gathering people and sharing the knowledge, sharing that equality feeling. So very happy to be sharing this with you, and thank you for joining, Malin, on a very short notice.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure.
How do you feel right now?
I feel great, actually. Because we were discussing this, and I was on this big support demonstration in Helsinki on Tuesday, and it was great to see all these people that have come, even though we have COVID-19 that have made people really afraid, that people really were there to show their support.
I saw that like how come gather in public spaces more than 500 people? Was it 3,000?
Yeah, it was 3,000. So I felt very empowered there somehow, that I can be there and show my support, but as the movement is led by the Black people or the non-white people, and me myself, I have started to work more on these issues as I'm white myself. A couple of years ago, I have always been interested in this topic, but then I was invited into an artistic project, where my task was to write a handbook on how to work with these issues on stage in performance arts.
Okay.
And this has been a very challenging process, because you can't just write a book. It's a book for white people, of white people, just like that, without examining yourself and reading a lot and taking a lot of information in, and really like examining yourself and your own way of being, and your friends, your non-white friends, and what am I when we are together. And of course, then during this process, I have started also to be more brave and have put it so much more into my trainings as I'm working as a diversity expert.
Right.
And
sorry, Malin, I need to say, who is listening, you are very welcome to pose your questions about this topic, and we want to discover where is this power of community when we know we're so divided. And please point your questions here and ask whatever you want, whatever is on your mind, and do socialize with us, because Malin works at Equalita, is one of the leading consulting agencies on diversity inclusion in Scandinavia. You speak Swedish, you have family in all islands, now you're in the mainland in Helsinki. So you have worked with lots of, you work with a lot of ministries, with companies. So basically diversifying and giving the inclusivity to schools, to educators, to, where else did you?
To parents, to management, to, yeah, we are not so many working with these issues in Finland. So I've had also the lovely like possibility to work with so many groups. And for me, it's
maybe now it will be more important to really.
Yeah, definitely. But I also think, I mean, just like half a year ago, I was helping some kindergartens out, and they wanted to have a special theme on racism on kindergarten. And afterwards, also the management of the kindergartens, there were maybe, I think there were 10 of them that were participating, that this was the strongest lecture. And I know it has to do with the whiteness and talking about whiteness, because it's touch people. They are not really, aware, and then they get so much information. But what I also feel like my task is often also how to serve it in a way that we manage to absorb it, and that we just don't do as the history, that we just push it back. Not be too nice, that is too easy, that we like, oh, but I'm so good, but also not make it too harsh to create this change, even though it is harsh. But I think this is my task as the bridge between knowledge and actually creating the change, to give it in tips, like in small parts.
Yeah. Could you give an example? How do you actually engage and train companies, individuals in like recognizing that they have a bias, or they have, that definition in our brain that it's like the system one thinking, of Daniel Kahneman book. How do we create these stereotypes? Can you engage our audience?
Yeah, definitely. I'm working a lot with unconscious bias, and then I have a really interesting.
Tell everyone what is
unconscious bias. Is these blind spots that we haven't thought about things. And I have a training where people, they are putting themselves in a new role, and I'm using, for example, privilege walk that you can also Google. That's quite famous, but I do it that everyone get a new role, they get a new identity, and they are, for 20 minutes they are someone else, but they are on the workplace where they are. I can't do it here now with you, but yesterday I was doing another training. And then we had a question. I have this question: where can we find ethnicity? And then to make it, I usually do it like I give 4 examples. Is ethnicity something that is in our bodies, that we can find in our bodies?
So we need to ask ourselves. So is ethnicity in our bodies? Okay.
Yeah, so that's the first one. Or is ethnicity something that has about self-identification? Is that ethnicity? Is ethnicity something that is cultural and socially coded? Or is ethnicity, can we find it somewhere else? And I usually, when I do this, I say that everyone have to choose one. They cannot combine 1, 2, 3, because all of these are somehow right. And I usually, if I do it in a room, people have to go in different corners. Now, when we had the audience here, I want you to think, what do you spontaneously think is one of the most important, and how is that expressed in your everyday life? How do you see it, feel it? How is ethnicity happening?
In your workspace, or in
in your workspace, in your family, or in the street, or usually when I go to the workplace, we are thinking, how is it happening here? How is it expressed?
So whoever is listening, think of the word ethnicity and see how you feel that's reflected in your everyday life. So if I'm Uzbek, I'm Danish, I'm Russian, I don't know, there's different ethnicity ideas.
Yeah, that's also a good question. What is ethnicity, for example, for you?
Yeah.
Because you're born in a particular body.
Mm-hmm.
You have lived socially, culturally in different contexts.
Yep.
And what is your identification?
Yeah,
you know, and how are these expressed by you or by others?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel friends with every part of my identity.
Yeah.
It gets activated more, depends if I'm in Denmark, if I'm in Uzbekistan, if I'm somewhere out in the Finnish countryside, you know, you can really, I think you navigate, you have these fluctuating identities.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting is that if I do this with majority white people in the room, they don't see themselves as they have an ethnicity. So it's like also this idea of you, of we and them. And this is one of my training.
Just asking them how it appears. Okay.
Yes. So for example, if I have people to reflect on this, and then we can reflect together, like, but how is whiteness expressed in bodies?
Yeah.
How is whiteness expressed in identity? And then people say, yeah, but I don't really think about it. And I'm like, yeah, but how much is that a privilege that I don't need to think about my ethnicity? In comparison with other people that need to think about or is forced to think about it.
Excuse me. Yeah. It's also this idea, like when you buy whatever you buy a pillow cover. I mean, okay, we're women. Let's think about clothes, and whatever has ethnic on it, you identify it as something foreign.
Yes,
and
we have ethnical shops.
I'm sorry.
Should we go to an ethnical shop, or should we go to an ethnical restaurant?
We have a question here from Bakhtiar Shahajaib. He's an old friend and based in London and between Uzbekistan now, stuck in Corona. He says, why do we need to put a label? Deep down, I don't know what my ethnicity is and I don't really care.
And in one way, this is, I think, is a really important question. We need to put a label on it in order to make clear of the structural discrimination that are found. Actually, we don't want to have a label. We should just be able to be humans. But Black Lives Matter shows that there is a label all the time, and it's a question of life and death. And in order to process that, to work through that, me as a white person need to put this label on me and to think, how do I do this? Because it's me suppressing non-white people. So it's something in what I do and what I don't do. And if I want to have a change, I have to be the change because I am a part of the problem and sometimes the problem in the room. So it's a good question, like, why do we need to have a label? The aim is that we never label.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Malin. Hi, Simon. Welcome.
Hi, Camilla. I'm sorry that I'm late. You know what it's like trying to change the world.
I know you've been on BBC. I said everyone, so please hang in there for Lord Simon Woolley. Welcome.
It's a real pleasure, and we haven't met Malin, but a great pleasure to be on this platform with you too.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you.
We having this European. I have you as a both European and UK-based expert, Simon, and to really kind of give a very intergenerational perspective where we have been, where we are, and where we can go. Because I'm been doing this community resilience webcast to really connect people with social capital, something that you have been mentoring us with, Laura, at the German Marshall Fund. Transatlantic Inclusion Leaders Network. So you're the founder of that. Simon, you work with for 25 years with promoting people of color into politics, into every walk of life in UK. And you have founded and you're director at the Operation Black Vote. So lots of people grew up under your wings, new leaders, future leaders, present leaders. So if you could give us a little overview, why you did what you did, and where are we now?
Thank you, Camilla. I mean, when I started, I had no grey hair. I was completely, but you know, I wear that with a badge of honor. Now, I guess there comes a time in your life when you don't want to feel powerless, that you don't want things just happening to you, that you want to say that actually I want to help direct the society to be better, to ensure that people have opportunity and have equality. And I just think it's great that when you start believing that, then it becomes very, very empowering, because it means that no longer do you have this deep sense of powerlessness. You get angry, you get frustrated. So we began these organizations and we said, what's critical for change in society is understanding power, where it is, how it works, how we can access it. And for many, many years, the Black and minority ethnic communities, non-white communities, always felt we had no power. And what we found was actually in any election, that most are won in the margins by small numbers. And so you might be only 5% of the population, 10% of the population, but that's where elections are won and lost.
And you said that, sorry, Sam, you said, I remember we had those trainings 4 years ago. We were in Malin at the retreat. I was saying, what is the minimum size? Like, if you want to change the structural inequality, that the amount of people in political corridors should be, was it 30%?
Right. I mean, you need a critical mass to form institutions. And so, of course, when for decades, for many, many years, many of our institutions across Europe, they had no women. And men would say, women are in the kitchen, we can do politics. And then you women said, actually, you go in the kitchen, we can do politics. And when you have that critical mass, 30%, and you have that collective voice, it's a game changer. So you need that critical mass. You need that critical mass voting, joining political parties, and plan. I mean, we often say, you've heard me say many, many times that our great hero, Dr. Martin Luther King, had a dream, but even more than his dream, he had a plan. He had a plan of action. And you see where politics lies. You get people registered to vote, joining parties, and then you can start making demands. Now, right now, in this crazy world where we are angry, what we see in the USA, what we see with COVID-19, we're angry the way many countries across Europe treat Roma and Roma communities as second and third class citizens. And so all those things that we've learned that we have to bring to bear today to tackle these persistent inequalities, these persistent abuses of power. Right now, Camilla, it is a time for a new leadership. And I hope that minority communities and young women like you need to be at the forefront of that. Because when you're at the table, great things happen.
And you have done so much training and different leadership programs in UK, and of course with this transatlantic group. How do you see that changing? Where are we now at this moment? Okay, UK has been hit with Brexit and also with this misaligned work. There's some kind of echo here. Let's see if I can push it down. Yeah, and so that. Okay, it's still echoing. So someone has to put, is it on two screens? No.
It's fine away.
Let's try again. Yeah, so in the UK, with your Operation Black Vote, how are you reacting to this situation, and what is, I know that London has also taken a stand on solidarity, as Helsinki did on Wednesday.
I'm barely sleeping. It's the longest days. Often it's heartbreaking. But on two levels, we have COVID-19 and the disproportionality of those dying are black and brown, in low-paid jobs, in poor housing. And then, of course, we have this tragedy that's happened in the USA, the brutality of the state police murdering this man. And it's not just the police officer that killed George Floyd, it's the American system.
And Breonna Taylor and many others. Yeah.
Because when you have a system that sees people as less than, then they are more likely to get jobs, and less likely to get jobs, less likely to get good housing, less likely to get good health care. And in terms of, and that's the least negative areas. In the worst, it is police brutality.
Yeah.
Police officers, and too many police officers, when they interact with Black people, they don't see them as equals. In fact, some of them don't even see them as human beings. And so we have to push back. First of all, we show solidarity. But secondly, we have to make those demands that say, we want a new social and racial contract. The contract we have right now delivers little or nothing. We need to rebuild our institutions, our politics, our institutions, because if we don't, then these deaths, these shocking tragedies through COVID-19 will continue to occur, but through different guises.
Yeah. I think that this new social contract, at least in Helsinki, there's been a lot of webinars with different think tanks. For example, Demos Helsinki, they said we need a new social contract. Just, was it this week that there was a World Economic Forum's new initiative called Reset?
Yeah.
So they're going to, promote this whole social sustainability, which is what we are dealing with right now in also in diversity inclusion model, the ESG solutions and how do companies address it. Usually it's just green growth, and the social sustainability, the people part, is always missing. So World Economic Forum wants to approach that. And next week there is United Nations Global Compact with a lot of people from business, corporate, figuring out, also politics obviously, and nonprofits, to figuring out how do we make sure that inequality doesn't deepen. What do you see, Malin, as way forward with community cultures? Because this is our webinar. Topic is community resilience. Where could we go from here? And we see communities organizing and showing solidarity, but is this enough?
As I have my roots in the feminist movement, and I have seen, as Lord Simon was starting also, that from women also being not full citizen in society, and also having a similar situation that many non-white people today or Black people today have in all our societies. We know that the change is possible, but also we know that we need to get together and to empower ourselves in our own communities in order to be safe and have the safe spaces and confirm each other that yes, this is really happening, and it's not because me is me, but some kind of label that are put on me. But what we can learn from the women's movement is that we really have to go to the root with the problem. Otherwise, we just continue. And I think also what I have seen, from the Me Too movement, that it has spread, and of course it has started from women's experience of also different kind of violence. It has also broadened up to be discussions also about power and power misuse generally. Of course, you can have the gender perspective, but generally also who have the right and take the rights to abuse the power in a system. It can be in a whole community, if we look at film industry as a community, or then in a workplace, and to see also that there are structural structures that give these people these powers. And I want now the Black Lives Matter to become a similar, because I think that when we somehow put these movements together, we learn from each other, because we have different perspectives, and we also always have the intersectionality. But we are not only Black, we are not only women. We have these intersections that we have experiences.
I hear that very much. I hear that very much about, look, Black people need to be in a space to initially begin the conversation.
Yeah.
We're strong, then we have the intersection and we share. and your struggle is our struggle, and vice versa. I am, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of anger, but we also have to have a lot of hope. And this is a moment I keep telling anyone that will listen, for a new generation of leaders to come through. And there will be women, there will be white women. We've had white women come to us and say, listen, Simon, how can I help? And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful that people want to be anti-racists. They want to be activists. They want a better society for everyone. And it's for us to do it. And unfortunately, I have to leave now for a ministerial meeting, because I'm going to speak to the ministers and say, look, this is what our demand is. We need a race equality strategy.
Right.
Camilla, will you please invite me back? Because I think these ongoing conversations with your audiences, with young leaders, with young activists like Malin, is something that I treasure. I feel strong with it. I know that you're there, and I hope that we continue that conversation.
Thank you, Simon. I also remember Gloria's famous words, the older people, they have the hope, the younger people have that energy to keep on pushing. So I do want to keep that trust.
Yes, you have much more energy than me. I'll put my hand up.
No, you have much more experience than all of us. And lastly, before you switch off, you said about power. There's something new I realized. When people of color get access to power, it needs to be shared. And we still need to build coalitions and that's networks instead of being in power and not being active.
I have 2 minutes to dash. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining. So yeah, so he's been with us for so many mentoring sessions, and there's been some examples, suddenly people get to power and they just keep holding on to it. And I want us to work together, not just across different institutions, but across, networks, the same, people who have gone through inequalities and all stuff like that. So, yeah, what do you feel? What do you think right now? How do we build trust with the communities if we don't have this equality in the fundament?
As I was starting there to talk about this like Me Too movement, and particularly here in the Nordics, or maybe in Sweden and a bit in Finland, there have been this raising communities of men that want to not be a part of this shit and this patriarchal system that are giving men all these rights. And I'm really adoring them for now somehow doing this, groundbreaking work, not always like managing, not always succeeding, but that's a part of the game. Right. And that I see a need for us white people to do the same. And what can I learn? So I'm also watching, like, what can I learn from the feminist men movement? Yeah, that are the feminist men that want to support another world. How can I, as an anti-racist woman and white, be a part of the white movement? That I don't take the space, but I give it. I'm supporting. I'm raising my voice. I'm there. Like, what are these ways of doing it? And of course, in my profession, I have the power that I should also use to empower this when I go to these businesses, when I go to these other communities. Yeah. Where sometimes this is an issue that we are an all-white company, or then they can be proud and say, well, in our company, we have actually 10 different nationalities. But what does that mean if you're 1,000 people? Is it then 10 people? Or because actually what Lord Simon said, this 30%, this critical mass, is also something that I use a lot when I'm going out. I'm like, if you really want to have the change, you have to have 30% of these people that are thinking like this. It's not enough to have 30% women that are behaving like men, or 30% of Black people that have adapted and not feel that they have the possibility to take the space. Right. So we somehow also have to create that this 30% mass, critical mass, is there and are giving the space as well. But then after that, things start to not happen by itself, but then it's rolling much better. So it's a magical number that they have seen from many different places when it comes to minorities. Yeah. So this gives a good about, for example, representation in a company.
I think representation is a very interesting word, just to use it, because it kind of creates the common sense, right? Like representation matters, and because representation of customers, you can put a lot of like plausible reasonings about it. So representing your customer, representing your market, representing, this whole human right perspective, and because it's the right thing to do. And also right now, when we work in this really uncertain work environment, you need to have the variety of views and perspectives on things, on processes, products. So it's a competitive advantage. So if we kind of say that, well, we don't want to, be part of this change, and from an economical perspective or business perspective, if you're not adapting to change, you're going to lose your competitive advantage. So, I mean, there's different ways to promote that, but because we know that this anti-racism and the nonprofits or like associations driving this anti-racism debates, they always go to this defensive mechanism and the human rights instead of where it creates the silos, right? So there's those who promote diversity as source of innovation, and then there's other group of people saying that you're racist and you need to hire and you need to put this and that. Like there's different ways of addressing these issues. Where do you see, with all these years you've been in the field for 12 years, how have you noticed that the talks have gone, and where the anti-racist mindsets has been more, let's say, accepted instead of feeling defensive that we don't want to feel we are racist? But where can you see during 12 years?
I think we are still there. I think there are too many of us white ones like, I'm not a racist, but
it's like that Harvard
racist.
Yeah, nobody wants to take that test, right?
Yeah, but I think it's important. I mean, this is the same with I'm not against gender equality, but it's the same way of resistance. And so my work is also that we don't even go there. That I have another approach so we can't even come there. Right. And I think it's also like looking at this transformation of being more aware. Of course, we have a long way to go. And as a Swedish speaking, I'm also like part of the Swedish like discussions also. And as I have been quite active there, I can also see the difference between Sweden and Finland, and where we are very late here. But at the same time, even though the Black movement or the POC movement here have been coming very late.
Listening, POC stands for person of color.
Yes,
it's an acronym. Yeah.
Sorry. Even though it have come quite late here, then it have been also very intersectional. And I think also a strength here is, in a small country as Finland, many of us, we know each other. So that means that it spills over very fast in a small country and in a huge country where we have the possibility to build our communities, but not interact with each other. Yeah. So I see also that this that the smallness is a challenge, but also like a strength. That are the people working for equality in Finland are too few in order to be able to close their community and only work. But we need to bring in the others because we are connected with each other, and that I think is a great thing. That I can see the change, like if comparing to Sweden or to bigger countries. Sweden is double as big as Finland, so it's not that much bigger, but still. But has also a longer history, has more Nazi history than we have, even though we have a racist history and nationalism history. So many of these things are connected to each other, and of course, these Ruskiga tytöt have been the uplifting movement a couple of years ago. And that
it's a brown girls. It's a media outlet for brown girls, as its translation directly, Ruskiga tytöt in Finnish, and they've been featured on. Was it on BBC? their work has been featured?
And it started from a blog. It started with a blog.
Yeah.
Where now I get my empty brain here. Kukahubra.
Yeah, she's the founder, right?
She wrote a blog that got huge about her experience of racism. So it started from a blog, became a book, and became a publishing and training and expert organization. So that has also this, that first we have to make the racism visible, and then we can demand the change. And there is still too many white people here that's like, no, it's not existing, or it's not in my, or I'm okay with people as long as it's not in my backyard, like these kind of ideas of. So I still see that we have a long way to go, but I see that the movement and how we are working is really good, and we have a good flow. And as long as we, the white people, now find ways of not feeling too much guilt that it stops us and makes us passive, that we don't dare to do anything, but to do something all the time, because I think also it can be massive, as Lord Simon said also, like in the movement, I know from the feminist movement, so much anger, so much shit you have got. And also so much that you are afraid as a white person that shit, what all have I done? That you have, like, so this also, like, how to overcome our own fears and to see this is about life and death. We have to act. We need to do something. So I feel that my task is often to make these things visible to people. First visible, then they understand that we also understand this with unconscious bias, that we have these blind spots. That all of us, we are a part of this culture. We are a product. We are produced from this. This is a racist, sexist, homophobic, like transphobic, like this is a society.
To address.
The only way to get rid of it is to work, like start local, think global. In one way, it's personal. We have to start with ourselves,
right?
Because we are producing it all the time,
right?
I mean, every time I meet you, I'm like, how do I produce my whiteness? Like, that I be more also aware. What is my privileges?
Exactly. I think these two, they call these two pandemics, right? So one pandemic of Corona and how it affects our economy and people losing jobs and getting that uncertainty and anger. And then the second is this really deep hurt of racism and like brings out our traumas. And, it's a painful experience to feel neglected, to feel dehumanized, or, someone has violated your dignity. But I also think, of these two things, when everything comes out, all the pains comes out in obvious, is that, and I really want to believe that we as nations around the world look at this Black Lives Matter and see how we have those systems of oppression in every culture. So in Uzbekistan, feminists are attacked every day saying that, you feminists are cuckoo and you don't have that sense of situation, and we are happy as we are now. So that thing of where there was a youth demonstration in the States, in Maryland, which was shared with me, saying that your lack of experience is not an excuse for inaction, right? For not taking action. And that piece of people who are saying, no, it didn't happen in my backyard, or it didn't happen with me, so I neglect that experience. It's not about me, this story. So we have a lot of issues of course, gender-based violence, inequality with Romas, or, you take Balkan. I was at the Balkan Inclusion Leader Summit, and in Bosnia, they said they had 18 ethnic groups. And if we take in Finland, people of color are the minority. In Balkans, everyone else is minority.
Yeah.
And except that if you're born into a specific last name, or you have like part of the elite, or somehow you have the access to the network. And I just feel is the same in Uzbekistan, and in thinking how I felt in Russia. I don't feel welcome in Russia at all. My sister lives there. They get stopped by police every single day, police trying to bribe. It's my sister and her kids. And, you know, it's really, I live with it every day. And I'm sorry to say it, that I have accepted, because that's, otherwise I go mad, because I am an activist in my blood, because I need to promote justice. I really need to see that it's possible and see that it's visible. And I bring it in because I live in Finland and I live in Denmark, and it is open society that you can, if you're active enough, you can bring it out and exercise this, what you want to see, and build a community. But it's tough when a person comes to you and say, why do you speak so fluent Russian? Or why do you speak so fluent Danish? Or, you know, in Denmark was also these microaggressions. And so building still a community in that space where you feel unwanted and unneeded, I think it's, you either need to, I think you need to be really navigating in an environment where you find people like-minded. And so today, this article on Yle that came out, I just push it. The only way to do it is to find communities and to build social capital.
Definitely.
Do you have other tools to manage this?
Yeah, I think that, of course, because this is my work to do it. And I think also, like you brought up now so many topics, but first is that to accept. I think that's absolutely a way for those that are exposed for violence and for discrimination as a way of like surviving. But for me, not being that, I'm not allowed to accept. As I think it's really important to see also that who are those that are allowed, because you have to somehow save yourself and for all the pain, but also for me not being there. I'm not allowed to look away. I'm not allowed to just accept it as it is. Because then I'm reinforcing the system when I'm not saying anything. And I think this is super important tool for us also to know that with so small things, that's why we can have a female government in Finland, because there was enough of people that were not accepting the way how it was. And I mean, this is the same. We have so many historical like roads to just look at, and this is the only way to go. There is no other way to go. We have to go this way. And then we need communities, I mean, for like Black people to be safe. And then we have to build communities when maybe white people need to really like look through and be self-critical. And then we need a community where we meet, where we integrate, or because we need to build that common community together.
That's what I'm going after, the common communities.
Yeah, because otherwise it will be we and them. And it's about us and them. Right. And so this also like how the forms also. And then of course this idea of an ally. What do an ally do? Because that is to build that common community, to go in the demonstration, to show these things. That is to be in that common dream of where we want to go and where we can talk about these things. So I think, so we should not stay, the ones that are privileged are not allowed to stay in their own communities if they're not only, they can be, but I can understand that Black people need to stay because it's so painful to go out there, that they're not ready, that we others need to do some more stuff before they can go out, that they need to have this. And that's okay. And I cannot be angry if it's like, why is this a non-white space? Well, read in the history how many minority groups, also women, needed that space in order to heal. So I think these, for example, these can be these kind of tools, but what I do also in training is like how to take criticism. If you tell me like, Malin, I think that was a bit racistic, that how can I just breathe? Maybe I don't get it. And I can say, oh, I'm sorry. Like to somehow, there's a super good word in Swedish that is called tolkningsföreträde. There is no translation to English, but it means that.
What?
Tolkningsföreträde. And that means that, that the interpretation that one person has the right to interpret the situation. And that means that if you call me a racist,
yeah,
I don't have the right to interpret this situation because it's not about me. Or is it all about me?
Right.
So there I should shut up, say, I'm sorry. Maybe I can think about it, maybe understand, or maybe I can ask you, but we should always not ask people.
Yeah.
Ask you, sorry, but now I don't get it. What did I do? And then you maybe say, yeah, you said this, you used this word, you said this. And then maybe I have another opinion, but it doesn't matter because racism is interpreted by those that
feel it,
are exposed for it. As white cannot. It's the same as sexual harassment.
Yeah.
I cannot come and say this was not sexual harassment. It's a subjective right to say where is the limit, and that's the same with racism.
And
so
isn't it there where this part is always being judged? Like, yeah, well, they overused their right to judge it if it was sexual harassment, or that it wasn't subjectively judged by the person who was exposed to it.
Okay, there's always shitholes in the system, but we can live with that.
Loopholes.
Yeah, and we can live with that. Because I would say that if it's 1,000 people that says this was sexual harassment, or this were racism, then maybe two people that did it just because they were annoyed of the other person and not because they actually felt it, they used it.
Right.
But I as a white person, or I as a man, if there is a woman or the one that is calling me the harasser, I can live with that.
Yeah.
These are exceptions. Because I know that I'm a part of a bigger thing, a bigger change, and I can be a part of the change.
Right.
When just accepting.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't cost that much.
Yeah.
I think understanding, and this is of course my work in the business or in workplaces is like, how do we do this? Where is our pride, and where do we want to go? That's not our pride of me, this idea. I'm not a racist, I'm not a sexist, I'm such a good person. That there is this discrepancy between what I want to be and what my behavior is. And all of us have to just face it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just because I do something wrong, just because I do something wrong, it doesn't mean I am wrong. It means that my behavior is wrong, and a behavior can be changed.
Right.
And I am given an opportunity to change my behavior because you are telling me. I don't need to change as a person. I need to change my behavior.
Yeah, so it's all about behavioral change, right? And behavioral change, there's lots of, I've been to one webinar during Corona, remote quarantine reality, how to change a behavior from this design, systemic thinking and stuff like that. And it was really interesting model. Like if you want to read more books, there is this different modes of motivation and action you can take to change. I wonder if that also exists for how to give yourself rewards and anchors to change your behavior in regards to maybe inclusive recruitment, in regards to how we interact or speak more English in the workplace. Let's say it's a very Finnish context to say how to get more people of different nationalities in your companies. Like, okay, use English for example, English as a working language. And yeah, I think we should, I'm going to ask, his name is Ashwin Rajan, I think. Ashwin Rajan, he's based in Helsinki and he did a workshop for Citra, this Finnish Innovation Fund. So yeah, that could be interesting because you and I worked with promoting also systemic thinking in bringing social change into Danish army, into Finnish and Danish festivals, into universities, so how to address the gender divide. And it was with Danish-based gender lab. It wasn't necessarily just gender, but it was more also focused on ethnic diversity. I like that iterative way of figuring out what we could do now to create a change, what we could do in let's say, within half a year, right?
Yeah.
And it was long-term perspective.
Yeah, so very tomorrow, short-term and long-term.
Yeah, tomorrow, short-term, long-term. Yeah, so it's also, I think that's something that we can also engage companies to say, deal, okay, how can you improve your recruitment now or employer brand now and in short-term and long-term perspective. It's just how to take, I hope right now people will make change, because I saw a beautiful LinkedIn thread in Finnish. I almost cried because it's really had amazing words of a Finnish recruiter where she said, okay, guys, I don't want to see any one of Finnish recruiters showing prejudice in recruitment process. I was like, I can't believe this. And she had like 700 likes. And, you want to see that kind of call for action.
Yeah.
And everyone was giving her, applause, writing, supporting comments. Can I share your post? And this is something we need to see this change. And I was quite interested. So what I would say, where we build culture of community right now, even though everything is so depressing and frustrating, we want to cry and just feel angry, as Simon said, as you said, as I feel, it's that what I did with the Global Dignity, we have Global Dignity Finland, it's in 80 countries. We actually took people to become storytellers, to share their story. And usually it's people of another ethnic background, minority ethnic background here in Finland, and to share their story of meeting with Finland or overcoming their challenge. And that storytelling becomes kind of a therapeutical way to go through your story, to go through a psychological journey. So when they share, they face their fear, they get inspired to change, and then they create change. So those people who are speakers, they're now part of the Global Dignity Board, and they can go on now and create change themselves by being empowered. They say, listen, you have a voice and you have the identity. And that, I think, is one of the tools to say, okay, you can create your communities to engage with other community where they feel safe. And then how you said it, to come to another community where we are like expanding the Finnish community to be more inclusive, so that we're not in silos. And next week I have a flower rescue guest who as an organization, Flower Rescue. So they use recycled flowers to share, spread in Helsinki, and they're going to talk about how they build their community and how they can actually basically affect the community that they work with, their stakeholders. So yeah, to end our talk, I know we went over time. There was so much on my mind to say about this. Where do you see, Malin, to summarize, where do you see communities foster anti-racism mindsets? And how do they drive this? Besides these small NGOs and speaker workshops, and there's different labs. Again, I always talk about Shortcut Lab. They create this community where they feel comfortable to face the other community. But where can they foster anti-racism collectively, besides the Black Lives Matter solidarity movement?
I think that we have a need of like active people in those existing communities that maybe already have this as a topic, or not have this as a topic. And this as a topic, I mean then, for example, there are diversity as a topic, and how to raise this idea of Black Lives Matter there. But I'm still feeling that communities, they need leaders. They need people that can talk for these things, that can gather people.
Yeah.
In one way, I hope now, or I hope that the Black Lives Matter will be like an ongoing movement, as Me Too have been, that have given radical changes here in Finland. And still ongoing, that people don't see, don't really know. But I have seen a really big change in workplaces, how people dare to talk about things or find it's very important. And of course, it's easier when the Me Too is maybe like female male, where it's 50% of the population. And in Finland, the non-white is so much smaller that I see that the white people,
6% as I...
Yeah.
As I know.
So I see that the white people are those that have to be active and building communities. And I actually have, like, I think that we personally have to do things, and then, you know, with success and error, transform it into our professional ones, but also trying in our professional ones. And I think in HR, I think there have been good discussions like in products and service design. The more people that raise the topic,
yeah,
because as you said before also, we cannot really say, well, this is not so interesting. And there are too many ways of talking of why. Do we use the innovation word? Do we use the money word? Do you use the human rights word? There's so many of like these motivations. So I believe somehow that the white, like I see the, like in Finland, as the white community has to do things, and we have to find ways of doing this and becoming these people. And I think that is a need that white people, and I will take my share here of this and try to organize or to activate people even more. And that I think also to believe that in so small things we can make a big change, because this, with many people doing something small, we call it, like in my company, we're talking about like micro actions, that never underestimate micro actions. That's and what the influences are in a community, where you can change the way which words are used.
Yeah.
How do we talk about things? How do we put it into these values of how we are working?
Mm-hmm.
And to do it now, not to wait 3 months. Do it now, before the holidays. So
I'm wearing a shirt, one voice can change the room. It's perfectly with yours. I got this when I met Obama last year. So I get to wear it when I feel like, okay, it's gotta work. This conviction has gotta work.
Yeah. And I read on social media today, I don't remember where, but someone says, if you say that someone small can make a change, then try to sleep in a room with one mosquito. Like, so I think that we need to be some small mosquitoes.
That's right.
Like microaggression, but the other way, not oppressing like minorities, but pushing the majority.
The micro change as a mosquito. I love this example and metaphor. I have a very dear friend, Biu Barbes from Germany. She's our Global Dignity Germany organizer. She says, really enjoyed this. Thank you, Biu. I love you. I really do. She says, would you just remind that talks about racism must happen at dinner table amongst families, so that it follows outwards into greater community, in school, work, etc. So thank you, Bill, for pointing this out. And nobody's born racist, right? And this is really a good reminder to look at education.
Our brothers, sisters, mothers, aunts, they are the one that are reproducing it. Really good point. Really important. Start local.
That's right. And become a small mosquito doing that tiny change. I like it. Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. Next week, we are back on Wednesday with Flower Rescue Team. It's a Helsinki newly established organization changing the world with flowers, but they're going to tell you more with that. And tune in and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay resilient. I really believe in our community, and that this is how we rise in unity. Thank you so much, Malin, for the conversation.
It was great.
Thank you. Ramina says thank you. And yes, she's Ramina is from Uzbekistan, working for Global Dignity. Thank you, Ramina, for joining and sharing your story. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.